We are live.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Police Off the Cuff After Hours. My name is Mark DeMeo. I'm your host. I'm here with my co-host, my partner in all things law enforcement, the very handsome Bill Cannon. What's up, buddy?
Yo, what's up, man? I'm so excited to have Dr. Beth Sanborn, Detective Beth Sanborn, Mommy Beth Sanborn. She wears many wife Beth Sanborn. She wears many hats.
Yes, she does. She was a 20-plus year police officer and detective with, I'm going to try and say this right, Gwynedd?
Close, yeah, Lower Gwynedd. Very good.
Lower Gwynedd Police Force in Philly. She was in the patrols division, and somehow
she's talking in the past tense. She's still on the job.
Were you still on the job?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. All right, so there you go. So you started working with kids, and you developed this mentoring program and a counseling program while you were also getting educated. You got your doctorate research on the Pennsylvania School Resource Officer as a mentor and counselor. That was your doctorate. And you're here with us tonight. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, that's awesome. You gave me a lot more credit than I'm actually due, but I mean, we'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah,
there was a lot more. There was a lot more there, but I get tired of reading after like 5 minutes. So I read the first paragraph and that was it. I bailed out. I said 3 more paragraphs. I can't do this.
Just get the highlights.
Well, thanks for coming on.
Your husband's a cop too, right?
Yes, yeah, he is. He's a sergeant. He outranks me. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Oh, he's a sergeant. Does he order you around at home?
Well, he's not here right now, so
I used to try to get my wife to call me Sarge, but she would.
Bill used to order his wife around.
Yeah, but then she had a bigger job than me, and she tried to order me around. You know.
So you're still on the job, huh? God bless.
Yeah. Today was a difficult day, but I mean, they're all difficult days, but they're rewarding days. Yeah. So I got home a little while ago. It was time to quick move into mom mode and then get ready for round 2. And this is my round 2 for tonight.
Why was today difficult?
You know what? We're kind of jumping ahead, but when you work with kids and you're really invested in what you do and you're really into their future and their presence and trying to help them, it takes an emotional toll on you. You want them to succeed. You want them to make smart choices, and that's an adorable picture.
Man, that's Detective Beth. Look at that. She's so happy, so smiley. If you wouldn't be in a NYPD radio call looking like that.
What you can see is the manicure. My
face like this.
You're in the bag. In that photo in New York, you call it "you're in the bag."
Do they use that slang in Pennsylvania when you're in uniform? They call it the bag.
No,
yeah, that's an old-time expression. And you know what they call an old-time cop in New York City?
What's that?
A hairbag. And you know why they call them that? Because old-time cops would never spend money on new uniforms, so it looked like hair would be growing out of it. You know how when a garment gets old? So that's how they got the name hairbag. I love that expression. Great.
That was the coat.
History, right?
Well, that was the coat that they used to wear. Was that you could wear basically a T-shirt underneath it, but then you throw this thing on it. It basically buttoned with these gold buttons from your neck all the way down, and it was just a jacket that you threw on over your T-shirt.
Oh my gosh!
And that thing was made out of wool, and when it got old, like Bill said, it used to collect.
Like hair.
Yeah, it looked like hair.
It was even a poem, Brass Buttons, Blue Coat, Couldn't Catch a Nanny Goat. You never heard that one? That would probably be apropos in Pennsylvania where you do have nanny goats.
So you're still on. Wow, that's amazing that because most of our guests are retired. You know what I'm saying? So it's cool that you're still on the job. But I would imagine now you're like in a special place right now. You're just exclusively working with the kids. Are you doing much patrol anymore?
No. So I came off of patrol about 6 years ago. I had been on patrol for about 18 years. And listen, I'm in the suburbs of Philadelphia. We're a very affluent community. It's a quiet neighborhood, but there's a lot of money there. And where there's money, you might tend to have some crime, your burglaries, your property crimes. But we're a very service-oriented area. We treat our residents really well. There's high expectations for how we interact with the public. And when you're in kind of like a quiet, sleepy bedroom community at night, you can only listen to every song on every radio station and know every word before you just kind of like go a little crazy. I mean, I was playing Candy Crush every night. And when my lieutenant approached me with this position saying like, hey, listen, our school district and the police department wants to start this school resource officer program. I think it'd be a really good fit for your personality. It'd be great for the school. It'd be great for us. The hours are Monday to Friday, 7 to 3. And I was like, stop right there. I'm in.
And weekends off, right? Weekends off.
So it was great. So about 6 years ago, I walked into the halls of a high school in January, mid-school year, and it like brought me right back to my high school years. And I was immediately nervous and freaked out. I was worried my zipper was down. There was a booger hanging from my nose. I walked into a cafeteria with 300 kids and I was like, I hate every second of this. It was so awful. I mean, you walk in, the needle skips across the record and they all stop and look at you. I'm like, oh, hey, hi. But I have never once shied away from a challenge. And I took this opportunity to get to know the kids, to learn the culture, learn the subculture, learn the language, find out what these kids were all about. And I realized that it brought me back to like the police academy days, like that starting in police work when like, what do all the old heads say? Like, why did you get into police work? You're like, I want to help people. And you don't get to do that on patrol. Like you might occasionally get to do that here and there, but it's a lot of responding to calls. It's a lot of filling out paperwork. It's a lot of check boxes and bureaucracy. But when you work with a kid and when you work with them, when there's no real crisis going on, you get that ability to help people. You get that ability to help work with a kid and to help them achieve their success. And I'm like, oh yeah, here we go. This was why I got into policing. And I'll tell you what, some days are hard. I'm not going to lie. There are some days where I leave and like I'm drained and I am just beaten down, battered and bruised. And yet I wake up the next morning and I'm like, I can't wait to get back there.
Well, that's good though. That's the best part of life. It really is. When you find something that you really enjoy doing and you're passionate about it, even if it beats you up, you want to get back there. You got it.
The kids must look at you as like a mother figure, especially kids that don't have a parent or missing a parent, right?
Yeah, so that's the piece of it. Like I told you, we're in an affluent suburban Philadelphia community. Like you should see our student parking lot. Each one of those cars are nicer than anything that I've ever driven. And
do the parents try to give you tips when you do a good job?
No, not anymore. Those days are long gone.
Well, how about house sitting my house for a month? That would be great. Like imagine that.
Hey, listen, a lot of our houses have a point in their price tag. And once you're at 1.2 and 1.4, but like, it's funny. Here's the thing. Even in my community, I still have kids who don't eat. I still have kids who don't have safe homes. I still have kids who are being malnourished, maltreated, that are being ignored. They're being neglected. They're being abused. It happens.
But that's because they have an eating disorder.
Yeah, it's
who's there. They just keep throwing it up.
Beth, your neighborhood is so different. Like we would drive around or walk around Times Square at midnight, and we'd see 4-year-olds and 6-year-olds out at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. And to any other police department, that would be child abuse. But to New York City, it was just like you had to like ignore it because it was just part of the culture back then.
So I have to tell you, a couple weeks ago, I took my first trip ever to New York City and I went to Times Square. I'm telling you, it was 3 weeks ago, marijuana had just been legalized. It was the biggest shock to me I have ever experienced because for 24 years, marijuana has been illegal. Marijuana has been a crime. And all of a sudden I come out of the hotel and there's a dude standing next to me smoking a joint. And as soon as we walk into Times Square, there's a guy standing on the corner going, good weed, good weed, good weed. I'm like, oh man.
Yeah, that happens. So I wouldn't buy that weed though. Next time you come to New York, I'm going to give you a little hint. Okay. This is 3 words you take with you when you come to New York and they work like a charm. You ready for this? Nah, I'm good. 3 words right there will be at every jam. Every time somebody's trying to sell you some, it's not going to be weed. It's probably not Coke. I guarantee you it's not Coke. And it's not, there's no music on that CD you just bought. You just say, nah, I'm good. Nah, I'm good.
That's fantastic. Was the big panda bear? I mean, is that like always there?
You know what? You right now you're seeing Times Square at its like minuscule. During on a regular before COVID, man. You know, it's walking through Times Square. No New Yorker does it really. Like no New Yorker walks through Times Square. It's just, you know, because it's all tourists. They're all looking around. You avoid that area like the plague.
Yeah, that was totally me. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, it's good to see it, you know. And the next time you come to the city, you got to let me know. You come to a comedy show. You know what's, you know what's funny? What you said. You said, I want to help people. Like when you said that about the job, like you know, when people get on and they want to help people.
Yeah, you're gonna laugh at me. Go ahead. Go
No,
ahead.
my first thought is like, I want a gun. My second thought was I want a parking plaque. My third thought was I want to get out of this in 20 years. My fourth thought was that uniform gets a lot of tail. Yeah.
The blue magnet, they used to call it.
Blue magnet, yeah.
You know, Mark, Beth told me that her chief is going to be listening to this, and if we get a little bit too risque, he's just going to like have some cops come there and pull her out like with the shepherd's crook, you know?
I might be experiencing some technical difficulties.
That's right. I'm really expecting in her ear saying, Beth, get out now. Get off that show now.
You know what the difference is, too, is like, you know, we have school officers here, too, in New York.
Okay.
But it's like way different. Like if you would see what it's like at 3 o'clock in the afternoon at a public high school, you know, the kids getting out. And there's always a cop assigned to it. They know all the kids and stuff like that, but every day it's like I'm sure it happens to you as well because you mentioned it. Today was a rough day, but over here it's crazy, man. Well, right now
in New York City, we have what are called predator and victim schools. So the victim schools are the schools the rich kids come out, and then the predator schools are the poor kids, and they rob the kids from the prey school. Wow. So what the principals and the police department had to come up with was staggered dismissal times.
Yeah.
So let the prey school get out first, so they're out of here, and then let the predators out. There's no one.
You know what they started to do too? They started chopping up the schools. So you'd have a school that was like 4 floors. So the top floor would be like the smart kids for some reason, and then it would be like the medium kids, and then the first 2 floors would be like the last one would be like special ed. So you had to go through the gauntlet. If you were on the 4th floor, they had to let you out early, so because otherwise you were going to get attacked.
Wow, I'll tell you what, there's so many different interventions and things that schools are doing to try to avoid problems and try to mitigate, make sure that the kids are staying safe. I was talking to someone who was I wish I could remember who it was right now, was telling me that in their schools on Friday, they all wore uniforms. And
uniforms are good.
The kids still fought like crazy. They didn't care. But on Fridays, when they had most of their fights, they started a dress down Friday where the kids could wear their own clothes. And their fights stopped because the kids didn't want to fight in their good clothes. This was the stuff they wanted to go off to their other people. And all of a sudden on Fridays, they didn't have any more fights. And I'm like, see, that's a smart person right there.
Yeah, but you know what's so different about that in New York? Because I went to a Catholic high school. We had to wear uniforms and everybody got along just fine. Especially when I was growing up, it wasn't like segregation, but you know where you're supposed to be at a certain time in New York back then. You didn't want to be in the wrong neighborhood. We used to wear uniforms and everybody got along fine. And then we had to dress down every once in a while. That's when all the groups got separated because it was mostly about music. But the kids who were into rock and roll, they stuck with their own. And the kids who were into, there was no mingling at all on that day.
So it was like Breakfast Club. Everybody had their own little separate.
Yeah. But when we wore the uniform, everybody seemed to like get along just fine. So it's so funny that you mentioned that. It's a complete opposite.
Wow.
But kids are weird.
Yeah.
So Beth, do you have a big opioid problem in your community?
So yes, but no. So Pennsylvania is like super fractured. We've got lots of tiny little jurisdictions and we all kind of work independently from each other. You know, we try to coordinate, we try to collaborate and help each other out, but there is a lot of fractured policing here that happens in Pennsylvania. I'm only 10 miles north of Philadelphia. So there is an opioid problem here, but it's not directly hitting our immediate community. That's not to say that we don't have it. we're having the isolated, instance here and there. And I base that on like our Narcan usage and medical calls. But when you really start to look at our school community, which is a great representation of the larger community, it's not hitting us directly here. And I kind of want to like knock on my table to say that, because listen, I mean, it's devastating, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody. But here's the other piece of it. Where there's money, you can afford drugs, and some of these kids can afford some decent stuff, or at least they think they're getting decent stuff, but they don't know what it is that they're getting. And they don't know how to use it, and they're experimenting, and it's scary. But when this happens in a giant home, away from the street, away from other neighbors, and there's a medical emergency, or there's an overdose, or there's a problem, like, your neighbors don't know about it necessarily. It's not like my neighborhood where I live right now. We're all on top of each other's neighbors, and God forbid I turn the light on to get a drink at 2:00 in the morning, and my neighbor's texting me, "Everything okay? What are you doing up?"
What are you drinking these days, Beth?
I'm more of a Diet Coke and a fruit punch kind of girl.
Oh, I mean, when you have an adult beverage, what is that adult beverage?
So I'm a type 1 diabetic, which means I'm super, super careful with everything that I ingest, which means I'm not really a whole lot of fun. So when I tell you that I'm mostly a Diet Coke kind of girl, I'd say I'm almost entirely a Diet Coke kind of girl. That's my vice.
Oh, okay. I'm not going to push it. I mean, I have empty cases of Cabernet in my garbage, People across the street there, we know what you drink. What a mystery. What a mystery it is.
But at 2:00, I can still grab a can of soda, and I can also finish up that can of soda at 6 a.m. when I wake up.
Yeah, I wouldn't fool around with the diabetes either. I have friends that passed away from diabetes. I know the severity of it. And I always said to myself, if I got diabetes, I wouldn't cheat at all.
Oh, I certainly cheat. Let's be clear. I do.
Hey, if we edited this the wrong way and your husband hears that, he's going to be like, "What? Beth, do you cheat?" We can insert a question the wrong way.
Yeah, that's the way I am. I'm like, if something's wrong, I'll fix it. I'll try to anyway. But yeah, I guess you have to cheat every once in a while, though, right?
Yeah, I'm just gonna, my cheating is with my food and my sweets, and I mean, that comes true. Like 18 years on patrol, and like your diet's awful. You've got lousy sleep habits and lousy eating habits, and all of us. Like I remember starting my shift every day with like 2 soft pretzels and a Red Bull, and I was like, I'm ready to go, and put on like 30 pounds later, and type 1 diabetes later. Apparently, you're supposed to take care of yourself.
When I was on patrol, we used to we knew all the best places to eat. We had the 110, the 115. I was online talking to some people about it. We used to call it the land of plentiful. I used to go to one place to get my rice and beans, but I didn't like their chicken, so I used to we used to drive to another place to get their chicken. And then the bread company they'd make bread at like midnight, and we'd work till 2 a.m. So you stop by there for a loaf of bread. Right out of you could smell it in the whole neighborhood. Desserts, we had a place for dessert. No matter where we worked, we knew all the best places. So yeah, we never suffered for food. That was for sure.
Yeah, but you always talk about the cop food, which is pizza, Chinese food, cheeseburgers.
Well, that's it. Yeah.
The devil of all is White Castle burgers.
Yeah.
Guys in the 3-2 used to bring the suitcases of them to the squad and be like, "Get away from me!" Because once you eat one of them, they're addictive, but they're the worst thing for your system.
Oh my gosh. See, we get teased because we're in this beautiful neighborhood. So when I tell you like our favorite sandwich shop, I get the turkey and brie with little slices of green apple.
Oh my God. I'm going to have a turkey and brie sandwich for lunch.
Man, if my brie gets cold, I'm not a happy girl.
It's funny that you mentioned that. Is I remember right after 9/11, we were, they had places for us to go eat. Remember that place downtown, Bill?
It was
Italian restaurant. Yeah, and sometimes
was it on Canal or Houston? One of those.
Yeah, and then I was in the family center for a while there, months, and they used to put out some spread for us, and a lot of it was stuff I would have never known. They were coming from Le Cirque, like food from Le Cirque.
Oh
and
yeah, people donating food.
Famous restaurants, and we were having those type of sandwiches, and it was weird because it was like something really horrible happened, and now you're having like a really great sandwich. So it like messed with your head.
Yeah. You know, some people in the chat, they're talking about like donuts and coffee. I just want it out there. Cops do not eat donuts. I don't know where you guys got that from. Cops do not eat donuts.
I have donuts right now. I'm waiting.
I ever seen like there was the funniest meme. They had this big box with a stick holding up the box, and they had donuts on it, and they had a rope. So like, and for a cop to go in it, like it was a trap for a cop.
You know what? It makes the best photo ops. So whenever we're having like a new student orientation or a bunch of new people at the school, of course, we always put out a spread of donuts and Danish and coffee and juice. And every single time without fail, I will go up, I will pick up the whole box and I'll stand there. I go on right in my mouth. I'm all ready to go. Go ahead, take your pictures, have fun.
Cop eating the donut.
Once you get powdered sugar on your vest cover, it's like, I can't get that to the dry cleaners now.
Bill called a donut eater, right?
Donut eating, yeah. Mark, I think it's time for your commercial.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't know, well, you're gonna know right now. The best hot sauce in the world is SilkCityHotSauce.com. I use it on all my food. I've been dieting. I lost over 15 pounds right now. The only thing that keeps me sane is Silk City Hot Sauce. They have several different flavors from mild to wild, and they have crazy labels, original artwork. They have flavors like Bobby's Big, Chipotle, Aztec Attack, Badass Jew. That's my favorite one, by the way. Slurp, Mango Madness. And if you go to SilkCityHotSauce.com and you put in the coupon code OTC for off the cuff, you'll get a 15% discount. The bottles are usually about $5. You get 4 of them for $20. And trust me, when I tell you, you can't go wrong. This is high-end food, and nothing cheap about it, man. It tastes dynamite, sparks up whatever you're eating. Check them out, SilkCityHotSauce.com.
You guys, I can't get, there we go. You guys getting sick and tired of living in New York and you want to get the hell out of here? High taxes, bad government, bad mayor, bad governor.
Yes.
Carol Waters of the Beach Realty Group has been buying and selling property in the Myrtle Beach area for 11 years. Carol and her husband, Rob Mayen, he was a retired FDNY firefighter. Don't hold that against him. And he also rolled over from the NYPD. They work as a team. Carol's been a multi-million-dollar producer for the past 10 years, and they have great knowledge of all aspects of the real estate industry. Carol's are well-known around the Irish community in New York. She worked in Fitzpatrick's Manhattan Hotel for over 20 years behind the stick. Originally born in the Bronx and brought up in County Mayo, Ireland. Contact Carol Waters for all your real estate needs in the Myrtle Beach area. Carol Waters sells Myrtle Beach at gmail.com, 914-261-6681. Now, this is a personal one. We're announcing this really early, but May 18th, Joe Lisi, a retired captain and the most successful member of the service actor in the history of the NYPD, he's been in over 100 TV shows and movies. He's having police off the cuff night at his restaurant, Bordeaux, on 350 West 46th Street. And anyone that mentions Mark's hair will get a 15% discount, or mention police off the cuff and you get a 15% discount. So that, you know, the other thing is our Patreon, please, you guys, if you're not joining our Patreon, we'd appreciate if you would. www.patreon, there it is, www.patreon.com/policeoffthecuff. And on YouTube, if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe to our YouTube on Police Off the Cuff. We now have a button. You can just press that button, boom, and you're a subscriber to our YouTube. We're growing fast, but not fast enough to get us out of the neighborhoods we live in.
We're building up a website, and the website is going to have a merch page on there. And we're going to come up with a line of some T-shirts, some hats. I always wanted to do like a Detective Pat, I caught some lead, and Miss Homicide T-shirts, and for the really popular guests that come on often, I think they should all have their T-shirts. We want to do all different type of merch. So that's what I'm excited about. Also, I forgot. We'll go back to it, but I'll remember it in a second. I had something I wanted to say.
We'll get back to it later. Let's get back to Beth because she's feeling like a bastard stepchild right now. You know, now her chief's going to really whisper in her ear, "Get off that show now."
I think he wants to know if he can come up from Philly for the Bardo night.
Oh yeah, that's good. People coming from
Well, that's what I wanted to say. You just reminded me. I'm trying to talk Bill into doing some minutes there. So if Joe, if you're listening, Lisa, if you got a mic and a sound system there, I'm like, what? Since we're there, we might as well put it on the show. Even if it's just 10, 20 minutes, a half hour of comedy, why not? I'll do it. Let's go.
He wants the show to be the pizza.
Well, we'll eat too. We're gonna eat, but that'll make people buy more pizza. So I'm trying to talk Bill into it.
Beth, Mark is a much better comic than me, but he's been doing it for like 25 years. I've been doing it for about 6, but I haven't been up in since the summer. So when you don't do it, you get very rusty, and you're not, normally I could do 15, 20 minutes, no problem. But now I get up, I have to really look at my material and then I haven't really written much,
It's the cold shower. That's exactly what.
Yeah, I got to stop Wim Hofing. That's right. If I Wim Hof,
it's like you just jump in. It's never going to be comfortable.
That's true. You're right. You just got to jump into
even
it.
When you're in your zone.
You got the butterflies till you get hit, and then you're like, rah!
Yeah. You need a couple of shots to the mug.
That's right. Same thing with NYPD. You're nervous till you get shot at. Then you're all right.
Yeah. You know what? You're speaking about the NYPD. Listen, Philly, I hope, I don't know, I read stuff. I know you guys are going through a lot of stuff over there. You're working crazy hours too, but we had a crazy week over here. We had an officer that was run over. And I just want to, I just feel like we have to mention this kind of stuff on the show. His name was Anastasio Tsakos, and he was a highway cop. And prior to his death, he was involved in taking. There was a scene on a highway where there was another death. It was a car accident. Somebody had died, and they were blocking off the road. And there was he got run over by this Jessica something or other. I don't even know what her name is. But prior to that, a couple of hours before, she was on a podcast and she was motherfucking the police and taking shots of vodka and smoking pot and all this stuff. And it just goes to show you, man, if you want to watch the manifestation of hate build up into something real, I mean, most people, when they're getting high, they're doing it for fun. She was like in a bad way. And when she saw that roadblock, whatever it was on the LIE, that you have to pause, she decided, I guess, fuck these cops. And she wound up taking out somebody. And the funny thing is about the whole thing is she said on her podcast, she said, I don't give a fuck about the police, fuck your wife, fuck your kid, and all that. And that's exactly what she did. She took out a father of 2 young children. And she was intoxicated, and it was just because she was in this hate zone, this just hating.
So that's awful, and there's no other commentary to that. It's just we're in some really tough times, but like I said before, that I don't shy away from a challenge. That's why I stick with this. I see this as my responsibility, and I'm one of many, but I see this as my responsibility to change that mentality. And I do it by starting with the kids. And I mean, I'm talking as young as kindergarten. I'm also talking about your high school seniors, your 18-year-old kids, because they need to know that we're good guys. They need to know that we across the board are there to help them, that we sacrifice for them, for their successes and for their future. So if I can bridge the gap between kids and cops, that's my responsibility. And I take it seriously, and I do it every day. When my energy banks are low or when they're high, when I don't want to leave my biological kids because they're home sick, when I'm having a rough day or when I don't feel it, I know some of these kids don't have it any other way, and they need to know, regardless of however they associate or whatever marginalized group they feel that they're a part of, they need to know that cops are here for them and that we're not the big bad guy. And that's why I'm not giving up. And that's why I'm not stepping away. And that's why I'm continuing to do what I do, because there's people like that out there. But I need everyone to know, and I'm going to start with my own community. I'm going to start in my own little bubble to let people know with my words and my actions that we're here to help, to be the good guys, to be on their side, to help right wrongs. And then from my little community, it's continued to grow bigger and bigger. And I know it sounds rainbows and sunshine, but that's my reality.
No, it's a good reality, because you know what hurts a lot too is like if you buy into any of this stuff about privilege or anything like that, you know, the people that benefit from good police work are usually the people that, you know, have a little bit more than everybody else. And then when you see those people coming out and, you know, for whatever reason, just if it's just to be part of something or a part of the protest, there was nothing going on for these kids to do, but during the pandemic. But when you see them out there and they're doing protests too in like these affluent neighborhoods here in New York, and you're like, wait a minute, you're the beneficiary of all this great police work over all these years, and now you're against us too? It doesn't even make sense.
No, it makes, you know, Mark, it's like when you think about the whole defund the police movement, it's a very small minority of people that are forcing this narrative, because you talk to any cops, even in New York City, that work in the neighborhoods of color where crime is the highest, the community wants the police there. They do not want the police defunded. They do not want the police pulled out of their neighborhood, because they know what will happen. But it's a small group of politicians and politically bent people that are pushing this defund the police narrative. And our friends in Hollywood, you know, you see where they will just, they're like parrots. They'll just parrot the, you know, the trend of the day, you know, as they drive with armed, you know, muscle-bound bodyguards from place to place in their Mercedes. And they're talking about defunding the police, these idiots.
You look at the ratings of the Oscars. That's all you got to know about that whole Hollywood clique. Nobody watched that.
No one watches it anymore. They're tired of hearing their politics.
When Billy Crystal used to host it and all these other hosts, that was a fun night. That was a fun. You can't watch it right now. It's so.
You know, again, it starts small, and it has to grow from the small, from that little seed. Like every morning, and I know. Listen, I know you're not supposed to have your routines. Every morning, I stop at the same Wawa. I get the same cup of coffee every day. Okay, I know you're not supposed to do that, but I see the same people every day. We greet each other.
That's because the coffee's OTA.
Well, yeah. I mean, I stand in line every morning.
Does OTA mean the same thing in Pennsylvania as it does in New York?
They don't bring it to your car for you?
Beth, does OTA mean the same thing in Pennsylvania as New York?
I'm going to make an assumption, and shame on me for doing so, but I'll tell you what, I stand in line every morning and I wait till I get up to the front and they say, have a lovely day. And I say, thank you so much. It's very kind of you. I appreciate it.
New York City cops go like this.
No.
That means it's free.
I would never. But I will tell you, though, that little community, it's like United Nations. We've got everyone who comes in there at 6:30 in the morning, and it's fantastic. And even when I'm working throughout the day, and I get to see people from everywhere, and they come up, and it's a shame because it's almost, they almost say it like hushed, like they're doing something wrong. They're like, officer, thank you so much. Like, we appreciate everything that you're doing. I'm like, well, thanks so much. It's my pleasure. I love doing this. And you know, it's a shame because I almost feel like they're embarrassed to say something, or it's okay to say it when it's quiet, but not when there's a big crowd or anything.
Right.
Again, so I reinforce that with my actions, and I make sure that people feel comfortable. And even with the masks, you can tell when I'm smiling. Like, my smile hits my eyes. And I tell my kids, like, don't be the one that takes that smile off my face. And it's amazing that even that little smile is enough to encourage people to come up and say hi and just want to engage in conversation.
Isn't it good that the masks are going to be taken down soon? Did you get your vaccine?
In New York, they just did it.
I sure hope so. I'm waiting. I'm well past 2 weeks past my second shot. I've got acne like a teenager down here. This is terrible. Do you know how much spackle I had to put on this, before?
I hate wearing that damn mask. I take spin classes. Try to take a spin class with that mask on. You can't breathe,
In New York, now if you're fully vaccinated, whatever, you don't have to wear your mask in the street. And if you're with a group of people who are fully vaccinated, you can be with them. So it's and I think right now, de Blasio just opened up the city July 4th at 100%, July 1st. So if he's doing July 1st, that's because he knows by June 1st it'll be pretty much completely open anyway. Because if you've been vaccinated, listen, I want to be a gentleman. I want to, play the role, but I'm fully vaccinated. If it's 80 degrees outside, I'm not wearing my freaking mask. I don't give a shit. Fuck you. What are you gonna do? I did the whole thing. I played the whole way.
Similar just hit our news just this week about what Pennsylvania's governor has suggested as far as our mask mandate. I'm looking forward to it personally, but that being said, knowing the position that I'm in, knowing the uniform that I wear, I'm not going to be the first one that's walking around without the mask that says, I'm not causing the controversy where someone's coming up to my community or my chief or my school board or my elected officials and saying, well, how come she's not wearing it?
No, I mean, obviously when you're working, you have to do what you have to do. But you also have to stay ahead of it. And that's what I think everybody's aware of too, because you don't want to take the average person, the non-criminal, and it's 85 degrees now. And they're like, fuck it. Like, I got vaccinated. Why? You don't want to turn that guy into somebody who's technically breaking a law.
Right.
So that's why you got to stay ahead of it. And that's what they're doing right now. They're staying ahead of it. They realize that, the vaccination numbers, and not only that, but in New York City, I don't know how it is in Philly, but they've opened up the vaccinations pretty much to everybody. You can go to almost anywhere right now and get a vaccine. And there's plenty of places I noticed the other day that there's no line and there's nobody coming in. So at some point, once everybody has the opportunity to get the vaccine and they don't choose to, all right, listen, we have to move on.
Yeah, I mean, there's only so much you can do. Like my son is 18. He turned 18 in February. He just got his first shot and, super excited because the second shot is scheduled for Mother's Day. So that's what I'll be doing.
So you can be miserable on Mother's Day after you get the shot.
I'm hoping maybe my husband takes him for his second shot on Mother's Day. Like maybe I'll get to sleep in that day. That'd be fantastic. And bring me McDonald's when you come back. So we'll see. But my daughter is 14. She would like to get it, but right now in Pennsylvania, it's approved for anyone over 16. And I think it's open for anyone over 18. But anytime I turn around, there's plenty of emails that are coming through and notifications that are coming through for clinics and, just show up, register your name. I feel like it's everywhere now.
Yeah. A 12-step woman said, in Wood County, Ohio, the law enforcement officers were given only vaccines that were left over since they're perishable. I don't know. That's not nice at all.
Well, that was in the beginning, but now the vaccine's so plentiful that they're giving it to everybody. In fact, in New York City, the cops should have got it first, and they didn't. And that is also just to show the disdain for law enforcement by elected officials, that the police weren't first on the list, because so many cops in the beginning got COVID because they were working 12, 14-hour shifts. And then when the protests, they were dealing with all the protests for 12, 14 hours, and they weren't vaccinated. Well, there was no vaccine yet anyway, but they weren't on the list to be first,
Yeah, it was scary at first. I remember how I was reacting in March of 2020 when our schools shut down and when we were taking extra precautions at work. I mean, it was ridiculous. And I mean, I say ridiculous, but it was keeping our safety in mind. I mean, we had, it was even before plexiglass. We had tarps set up and duct tape and hand washing stations and alcohol. And I'm telling you, when the distilleries stopped making booze and they were making hand sanitizer, like police cars were lined up because they're like, we'll take care of you guys. And I remember thinking, especially, being immunocompromised and my daughter as well. I'm sure she would love that. She heard me say that, but we were really worried about our own safety. And my husband's a cop and I'm a cop and we've got autoimmune disorders. And like, now what do we do? And for a little while when this first broke out, my sole job was to stay healthy. That was what I was tasked to do, because if our department went down, they needed an insurance policy of someone who could work, who was available, who could handle things. And it was, it was scary. Here we are a year later, and I want to say that I've let my guard down somewhat. I'm not going to do anything reckless and irresponsible, but I'm definitely ready to resume most of what was my normal.
Well, Beth, I go to the gym and these guys with these spray bottles, they're like, shh, 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 shh. I'm just like, dude, get over it, man. And it's like you got to wear like a diaper to work out because all the equipment's wet, I'm like, how did my ass get wet? Then I realized the guy sprayed the hell out of the damn bench,
Yeah, but you know what?
And the CDC said you can't get it from contact on a surface. But the memo didn't go out to these idiots in my gym. They're spraying the hell out of things,
Yeah, that's the horrible thing about this pandemic has been, it affects some people really, really bad. Like, for example, the NYPD is still losing members. Just this week, Michael Mundy, he died of COVID. He was in the 7-7 precinct. And, so we're still losing members of the service. It hits some people really, really bad. That's the messed up part about this. And, we get the people that I just read it today, the people that tend to suffer from, the after effects of the COVID shots, the vaccine shots. Those are people that are probably were more susceptible anyway, and probably already had it. So that's why if you have, the second shot really throws you for a loop. They're saying you probably already had it before.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
So my husband had it. It's funny too, because it's not funny, but he got sick on our wedding anniversary. I just thought it was an opportunity.
That's a sign. That's definitely a sign.
It was our 21st wedding anniversary. I'm like, if you don't want Chinese food, that's fine too. But
that's the body telling you something.
But when he got the shot, and again, I'm not going to diminish anyone's reaction to it or the losses that people have suffered. But it's funny, I bust his stones all the time, because his experience with COVID was that I called it that he had like a man cold for a couple days. Uh-huh. And when he finally got his test results, it came back positive. I'm telling you, he walked into the room and was like gloating as he showed me the phone. He's like, look, I'm positive. And I'm like, okay, awesome, great. But his experience, and again, not to minimize anyone else's experience with it, is that he was inconvenienced and he didn't feel so great for a couple days. So it's all across the board.
It has to
do
really
the whole thing really is how it turned the world upside down. Besides, of course, people that died from it, and we all took it very, very seriously. I feel like I've been pretty much locked down for almost a year. Yeah. Last March we were supposed to have. We were doing this in a studio in 35 Worth Street in Lower Manhattan, and just everything got shot down. But luckily, we segued right into doing this on Zoom, and then we segued into doing it on StreamYard, and now we're international stars.
Well, well, Bill brings it up. There's so many people experience so much hardship during this, and there's also, if you want to look at some things that have come out of it, there's some, you wind up toughening up. A lot of people toughened up, and you like, for example, Soul Joe Richardson. He does the shows out in Rutherford, PA. Royceford, PA. He could have shut down the comedy there. He has a comedy club there, but instead they put it outside until they could tolerate that. Then they put a dome over it. He said the best comedians in the world come through this place. And there's all these examples of people that, just kept pushing, even though the tide was hitting you right in the face. Bill and I continuing to do this podcast. And now we do it like twice a week, which is it's once more than I'd rather do it. We were doing it once a week, and now we're doing it Monday and Thursdays. And it's grown, and we learned how to do it. Bill knows how to operate StreamYard. Who would have thunk it? The guy's like
A
putting up
highly skilled individual knows how to.
overlays,
Yeah.
adding video, pictures.
Beth, I'm doing a low tech show with you. I didn't have any videos waiting. I could have had videos of you dancing at the school party, but I didn't choose to do that. I didn't want to get you in trouble with your husband, even though he might be at work right now,
What is your husband's a sergeant, you said?
He is. Yeah. He's in so I told you Pennsylvania's like super fractured. He is in the township right next to ours. So we share a border street. So I've been on the job for just coming up on 24 years. He's at 25 years. So we're the old heads. And he's the supervisor for their community response unit. So he gets to do all the fun things in his department as well as answer all of the long-term problems and handle a lot of community complaints. But
what is your retirement over there?
I don't know what his is, but I know that we're looking.
Well, you should know that. That's a lie. I don't buy it.
She knows every dime in his check. She knows how much he puts in the account. I almost bought it. Hey, well, you're missing $10 this check.
You kidding me right now?
All right, well, let me rephrase that. There's talk of the drop and of going into the drop, and I'm not going to suggest that there's a countdown timer on his phone, perhaps, but I know that if we align our plans properly, that at about 4 years, we're both looking at hanging up our gun belts and really just.
No, but what is it like on the books? Is you got to do 25? You got to do 20?
Well, for me, I need both 25 years of service and 50 years of age. So I'll have the years of service, but I have to stick it out until I reach the age.
Yeah.
So,
we had the 20 and out.
Yeah, I thought I was doing the super smart thing. Like my route was high school, college, police academy, right on the job. And I'm like, I want to help people. I was 21 years old, no life experience. They're like, here's your gun, here's your badge, here's your keys, don't get lost. And I'm like, now what do I do? And
you picked up a PhD along the way, so it's not
like
you're not going to be working at Mickey D's after you retire,
Well, I've never wanted to be one that fit in, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I meant that I've wanted to be a standout in my work and in my career, in my reputation. So I just. I love what I do, and really, believe it or not, the doctorate came about because of the anti-police rhetoric. This like pulling cops from schools and school resource officers are the big bad monsters, and I'm like, that's not what we do. That's not who we are, and that is really what drove me to say, like, nope, I'm putting some research behind this. I want to get the word out there. So when you say like, hey, when Mark said I started this mentor counseling thing, no, like there's a national model out there. The National Association of School Resource Officers stresses that we serve 3 essential functions in no particular order. We're law enforcement, we're mentor counselors, and we're law-related educators. And I'll tell you what, most of us, we identify as that law enforcement because we're wearing uniforms or we're keeping kids safe or we're carrying guns. But I'll tell you what it is that we're actually doing during the day is we're actually doing those mentor counseling activities. But that doesn't make the news. Nobody hears about that. Nobody wants to talk about it because it isn't exciting. So that's why I was like, I got to get this out there, because if you're talking about defunding police and pulling cops from schools, you need to know what it is that we actually do. I want you to be able to have an educated mindset behind it. And that's where that PhD came about, because I'm like, you're not going to take my school from me. These are my kids.
Yeah, and you know what? These kids that are getting bullied, they can't go to the teachers anyway, even the principal, the dean, because they can't really do anything.
I've got news
out there, so at least the school people can tell the cop.
Yeah, but here's the really cool thing about it. So I'm a cop, but here's the thing. I know who's dating who. I know who's friends with who. I know where they live and where they hang out on weekends. I know their extracurricular activities. So, when someone's looking at security footage, I can identify a kid based on their gait or based on their sweatshirt or on their backpack. I get to know all that other little stuff. That intelligence information is huge. If I had $1 every time a kid came up to me and was like, Officer Beth, I can't go to my guidance counselor, but, or when a kid comes up to me and they're upset because they had unprotected sex over the weekend and now their belly hurts. Or when a girl comes to me crying because there's one girl in school that she told her boyfriend not to text and he texted her anyway, and now she's in crisis mode and she wants to hurt herself. Like, Cops don't deal with stuff like this.
You know, Beth, that is so important. And the trend in a lot of places is to take cops out of the schools. And it's such a mistake because cops really have that sixth sense and the intuitiveness that lets them figure things out before, these violence interrupters, as they call them in New York City, and some of these social workers. Cops, they belong in the schools, I believe. Like a
But that's
person
where
like
some of
you.
those fights start. Like you just mentioned, Beth. You just mentioned, whatever it is. He texts the boy that I told her not to text, and that leads into that comes back to the school, and that leads into a fight after the school where, guess what? Somebody has a knife now.
Yep. Or, I mean, listen, as simple as this. I hate to say it, and I mean, listen, I work in a great school. I mean, like, we have every resource under the sun. If you can think of it, we have it. But there's still 1,400 kids there. So what are you still going to have? You're still going to have fights. You're still going to have thefts. You're still going to have drugs. Like, let's be realistic. But here's the thing. If it's a Friday afternoon and tensions are running high, I don't know, let's just say right before spring break or right before Christmas when everybody gets all amped up, or just a regular Friday afternoon, and you two are going at it in the lobby and I hear your voices getting loud, okay? Because we know that's what happens. And either one of you drops your backpack and the jacket comes off, maybe you're tossing your glasses to the side. We know what's going to happen. I haven't lost my police skills just because I'm kindergarten cop. I haven't lost my 24 years of situational awareness. But here's the really cool thing. Because I know you and because you know me and because you know that I'm invested in your day-to-day, I can yell out, Mark, Bill. And if I can get your attention and if I can distract you for that moment, you might not want to be interested in fighting each other because you know that I'm locking eyes on you and that I'm watching you. And I can prevent that fight.
And you know what? Worst case scenario, you could use that. Is that what you carry behind you? That those? What is that thing? That's what you pull them apart with during the fights. What?
I like wood.
What is that?
I use that too.
It looks like something that you like separate people.
An old-time shillelagh.
I thought you were going to say shillelagh.
Beth, I want to just read some of the comments in the chat because we want you to walk away here with a big head. Dr. Sanborn has a lot of stories and energy. Very interesting. I can see her being loved by the kids. Ooh, that's so nice. There's a couple of more. Hello, Heather. There was a bunch of them. Now I can't find them. Anyway, people are impressed with your energy and your commitment to these kids. Before I just go back, I just want to. This is a. I told her I would do this. This is a sweatshirt being sold. I can't see the top of it now, but it's for the benefit is for the Brian Simonson Foundation, who was a detective who was killed in the line of duty. And the other one is for the Detectives Endowment Association. And the last one is Blue Lives Matter. And I can't see the top of the flyer right now to give you the address, but just know that this is posted on the Police Off the Cuff site on Facebook. And it's a great cause. For $50, you can buy a sweatshirt, and it has the NYPD logo on it. And all the money is being donated to a great cause. So that's...
Emma Roth, who's on the comments, she asked, how long is the police academy? Well, in New York City, because she's in Sweden. And in New York City, the police academy, she says in Sweden, it's 3 years. No, yeah, I guess you go out in the street for 6 months. Well, you go to the academy for 6 months, you go to the street for 6 months, you keep coming back for 3 years. In New York, you go for 6 months, and then they throw you out there to the wolves. What about Philly?
Yeah, so our academy is about 6 months, same thing. And then most departments has about a year probationary period. And then it could either be extended or you could get some remedial training, or, it could be extended. It's been a while since I've revisited that.
But I don't think that, you can really compare Europe to the United States. And one of the biggest reasons is a thing called guns, and they don't have 1,000th of the guns that we have in Europe. They just don't exist in Europe. And in fact, the police in Scotland, they don't carry guns. And they actually sent some NYPD chiefs to study how they do that in Scotland, which
I
I
can tell you
thought
how they
was
do it.
pretty ridiculous because, again, there's not the proliferation of guns in Scotland that there is here in the United
I can
States.
tell you how they do it. They're very polite. It's all about being polite. Excuse me, sir. Would you mind stop beating that guy in the head with the brick?
I can do that.
Oh, I'm sorry, officer. I didn't realize you were behind me. Over here, we'd be like, hey, what the fuck are you doing? And like, that agitates them even more. It's just about being polite, man. I've watched more than a dozen YouTube videos because I was studying England. Like, first of all, England has a car somewhere in every neighborhood that's loaded with guns. So that's what happens. You might be on a footpost somewhere and you're not armed, but there's a car. You know where the car is, or there's guns close by if you need them.
That's Beth smiling. That's a smiley police department that they have. She's happy. She's home. Someone's cooking her breakfast or lunch. She's getting that brie turkey sandwich delivered to her house. And there she is. She's always smiling. There she is in the kitchen. And there she is in uniform. So it's a little different. And then she's on a TV show. So she's making the rounds. She's getting famous. She's preparing for that career after the police.
Well, it's funny. I like I said, I love what I do. I'm in no hurry to give it up. And I see it as my responsibility to help build those positive relationships. But, it is kind of funny. You cannot have a whole department of people like me. My chief put it pretty bluntly a few years ago. He's like, listen, I wholly support you wanting to be a better person and to educate yourself and like continue to learn and do stuff. And I publish and I write and I present and I do all of that. He's like, but if we've got a fight at 2:00 in the morning in a bar, I don't care if you have a PhD or not. Like, I need someone who can go in there and separate everyone, keep people from getting hurt. I'm like, sir, I get it. You have to have a good mix of people with a lot of different skills. And I see myself as having a unique skill set, but it's fun and I love to show it off.
What's funny about New York, NYPD, when I came on the job, all you needed was a GED. Or if you had military, that was great. A high school diploma was all you needed. And then all of a sudden they needed college. And a lot of these kids that get the 60 credits that they need to get on the job usually finish it off in the 4 years they get the degree. So the fact that, they came on the job and now you're at a footpost somewhere at a protest and people are yelling and spitting in your face and cursing out your family. You're yelling at a college graduate. You realize that right now? You know what I'm saying? It's not like the GED guys that I came out with or the people that went, got a GED were right into the military. No, it's not like that at all. And those guys, for some reason, they wouldn't tolerate any of it. So,
You know what? It's evolutionary. Every industry changes, and policing is no different. And we're professionalizing, and we're getting better gear, and we're getting better equipment, and we're getting better training, and no longer are the days of like the dumb brute, like with a strong back and a weak mind. Like,
hey, not 9 years.
Something, Beth, I think that the public, especially elected officials, have unrealistic expectations of what the police can do and how much the police can take. If you watch the riots in New York City over the summer, they were being attacked, but people on the other side were seeing peaceful demonstrations. But the proof of the pudding was that 500 cops got hurt. So do cops get hurt in peaceful demonstrations? I don't think they do. So someone's lying,
Well, we're getting robots now. Did you see that video of the coming out with the guy in cuffs, and then all of a sudden a robot comes out? It's like it's in the shape of like a dog.
Yeah, no, they already nixed that. NYPD just nixed it.
Why?
Because the public didn't like it. They didn't like the robot.
It was too
dog,
effective.
I'm Fido. Please put your hands up.
You know why? Anything that's effective, they're going to step in and challenge it. The facial recognition.
Do you remember the Orlando nightclub shooting? They took that guy out with a bomb. He killed 46 people, and the chief there said, "I've had enough." And he sent in a robot with actually a bomb and took the guy out.
Oh, it's coming. And the irony of it all is there's no arguing with a robot. A cop is going to probably, his partner is going to be a robot. And when it comes time to arrest somebody, he's just going to send the robot over there, and he's going to sit there and he go tase, cuff, and he's going to go through the things on his little keypad, and the person's going to be arrested. And there's going to be no argument. My uncle works so-and-so. I'm sorry, I did this. And it's going to happen. It's coming. I mean, they already came out of the freaking projects with a robot. Yep. They're letting you know it's coming. You could protest it all you want. It's coming.
Well, police departments have to use all their tools. Over the summer during those riots, we never used mounted. We never used our horses. We never used drones. You could use drones to see where the crowd is going, because the crowd,
they didn't want people getting arrested. That's why.
Well, that's exactly it. They wanted. The mayor said, "I want a soft touch," so they didn't use. They didn't use aviation.
Everything that you see, every single piece of graffiti that you see in the city, anywhere in the country, is deliberate. They wanted it there. There's a purpose for it. I know what the purpose is, but I can't say it on the show because we'll be canceled.
Because Beth's here. Anyway, Beth, you're working with the kids, and that's fantastic. And, we have some guys across New York City, retired cops, that run programs that are so fantastic. There's a guy named Pat Russo who runs New York City Cops and Kids, and he runs a boxing program. And it's in all the inner city neighborhoods, and it's fantastic. And he's got kids from his program that are going to the Olympics.
That's amazing.
He's got kids from his programs that became New York City cops. He has kids from the New York City Cops and Kids program that have become hugely successful in the private sector. So those are the type of things that if the elected officials want to spend money, they should spend it on kids programs that before they get in trouble, get them out of gangs, get them out of MS-13, get them out of the Bloods, get them out of the Crips, instead of giving them money not to kill each other. Let's see how tough they are. Put them in a ring, put them in a martial arts class.
That's awesome. Yeah.
That's where they got to invest the money,
Yeah, well, one of the hobbies that my husband and I do together, and throughout our marriage, we've had different hobbies that we've done together. And I think that's been the happiest times of our marriage, when we do something together. When our hobbies have separated, that's when we have the most troubles. But we both do Muay Thai boxing. So when we're not here, we're at the gym beating each other up, and it's not domestic violence because, well, it's controlled and we're paying for it. But, it's fantastic, and it gets that aggression out. But it's fun to have something like that to talk about, because I'll tell you what, one of the first tournaments that our son, when he was doing jujitsu, he went to a charity tournament, and he was wrestling against one of my school kids. Wow. And it was so exciting because he was looking at me and I'm looking at him, and I'm like, yeah, you know me, I know you. And I get to cheer for them. And it's something that we can talk about. This kid walks the halls of my high school every day, and every morning he says hi to me, and he's wearing that same jiu-jitsu sweatshirt. And you don't get those relationships otherwise. And it's something that we can talk about. I had a kid who graduated a couple years ago, and he was troubled. I mean, he was troubled. He had a lot of encounters with law enforcement outside of school. I would say, you will never, ever have another cop that's going to advocate for you like I am. But once you leave these doors, once you leave those protections, I got to let you go. I can help you as much as I can help you, but this is on you. Well, listen, he was a fantastic boxer. I mean, sometimes it was organized and other times it was just an assault. But he might come in sometimes on a Monday morning and his hand was all bandaged up and he was wearing a hospital bracelet. And I would look at him and be like, what'd you do? What'd you do? You did something. What does the other guy look like? But something that I could talk to him about.
Jiu-jitsu is probably the greatest martial art. They should really incorporate that more into law enforcement training.
Yeah, you know what? There's so many jiu-jitsu programs for law enforcement out there. Now, I will tell you, I'm 45 years old. After I did my Ironman, I need 2 knee replacements. I've got degenerative discs in my back. I mean, this is my body is atrocious right now, but I still do my Muay Thai boxing. I'm just super slow. I could never do jiu-jitsu just because I don't have the range of motion and the flexibility that I would like to. My knees just don't work like they're supposed to. But I think it's fantastic. I try to do my best with my physical limitations.
Well, we had two retired. No, actually, one of them's retired sergeant who's a 3rd degree black belt, has his own school in Staten Island, and then we had another guy who retired from the NYPD and is a cop in Fort Lauderdale, and he was a 2nd degree black belt in jiu-jitsu. And I was like, wow, that's a really impressive thing, you know. And you know, they're taught how to, you know, basically immobilize someone without having to strike them, you know.
Yeah, I wanted to get into it, but most of the time, if I'm hugging a man, I don't want to hurt him.
That's pretty good, Mark. He still pulls out a gem of a joke every once in a while.
I just thought of that right now. Hey, I just want to mention this because we're getting close to closing time here. You know, we just had a guest on the show, Marianne McGinnis, and she was on with Dr. Washko, and we were talking about suicide. And this week we had another police officer who committed suicide. His name was Rory Denhill. He was 34 years of age. There's plenty of out there, plenty of things out there, plenty of people to reach out to, even if it is just call me. You know, just call me, call Bill. I mean, if you're down in the dumps, if you're a fan of the show, and we'll guide you in the right direction. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
This is not something that we should, you know, we got to look out for each other.
You know, I saw a guy, a sergeant on Facebook, put out his cell phone number and say, anyone's even thinking about suicide, call me anytime, anywhere. And he goes, and I'll talk to you.
Well, not anytime, anywhere.
And that's pretty damn generous to do that, I think.
No, it's great. It's great. But if you want to call me between 1 and like 3.
Yeah, they're going to make an appointment to call you. That's real generous. Dr. Stephen Waskell, our superstar suicide prevention doctor. Also, I just want to mention Marianne McGinnis. Marianne McGinnis, who you were just referring to, she was on Jay Wiley's show, and he emailed me today, actually called me on the phone today and said how great of a guest she was, and thanks for referring her. I
think she's tuning in tonight. I think the next move is to get her on MC Audio's show, Mike Cologne.
We could do that just by ordering him to do that right now. He's small. We could just slap him around, you know.
What's up,
we're picking his career up. We're engineering that kid's career, you know. There's a kid named MC
engineering our career soon.
He's from Connecticut. When I tell you he's going to be a broadcasting superstar,
he's great.
The kid's amazing. He's got a great voice. He makes Mark and I look like elementary school students, even though we probably look like that anyway. But he's so good.
Give him my name and number then.
No, but he's so good. And he's in college. But when he gets out of college, if one of these networks do not hire him, they're crazy. He's going to be that good, you know.
It'll happen, and then he's going to forget us.
Yeah, he's going to forget us. He'll be like, "You guys didn't do shit for me."
Hey, if you're out there and you're a fan of the show, please consider joining our Patreon. We put up special shows for you there. Bill has a true crime show that's very, very popular. I do a one-on-one. And, we're putting money back into the show. We're building up a website and, things are happening. And if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube page, please do. Every subscription means a lot. You know, we're trying to get to a threshold here and make the show bigger. We've had a couple of people that have reached out to us and been very, very kind with their words and saying how much the show means to them. So, we want to say thank you to all those people that reach out to us and tell us that.
You know, I could just like to say that on Mark is actually going to be away on Monday, May 3rd. He's doing a show for Compound Media because he's a big time comic. They don't invite me, but that's all right. So I'm doing a show, and I'm going to actually have a guest host, Phil Grimaldi, retired 2nd grade detective who sounds just like Joe Pesci. He's going to be the guest host. And we have a guy named Don Young, who is a retired NYPD street crime sergeant. But when I tell you about this guy's military career, it's unbelievable. He's been in Bosnia, he's been in Afghanistan, he's been in Iraq, and he works with them on IEDs and the investigation of IEDs. He's going to be an incredible, incredible guest. He reminds me of Christopher Strom, who wrote Brooklyn to Baghdad, a very similar type guest. But you could see these guys are superstars. Off the NYPD, they take what they learned in the NYPD, they take it out into the world, and they say, "We are the NYPD," you know, like that film. Anyway, on Tuesday, I have, which is not a scheduled show, my Real Crime show. I'm going to have retired detective Bob Mladenich with superstar OCME Chief of Staff Barbara Butcher, and we're going to talk about the serial killer. Now I can't think of his name. Rifkin. Joel Rifkin.
Oh, okay.
Incidentally, Bob Mladenich went to high school.
I read about that. Yeah,
who could think of that? He actually went to high school with Joel Rifkin.
They were good friends.
Yeah, they were good friends. And I was like, oh, excellent. I have serial killers. They're not bad people. They're my friends too. But anyway, Bob Mladenich and Barbara Butcher. Barbara Butcher is, I mean, I did a show with Barbara Butcher on Duty Run. 54,000 people watched it because of her. I won't say Duty Run, not because of him. He's good too. But Barbara Butcher, you put her name out there, she's a superstar, and she's got a book coming out. Anyway, I'm plugging everyone else but Mark. Mark, you want any other plugs?
No. I once again thank you, everybody that came out for the comedy album recording that I did, and I'm gonna take the pictures for the album cover on Monday. I have a great idea. I hope everybody likes it. It's gonna be a little crazy, a little bit edgy, and hopefully it'll get people's attention. That's what we're doing Monday, and I think the turnaround time is like 60 days, so it'll be available in 60 days. But that's all I got to report.
I want to also thank Dr. Beth Sanborn, Detective Beth Sanborn, Mommy Beth Sanborn, wife Beth Sanborn, and I hope that you don't get in trouble with your chief. We tried to be a little tamer than usual, but you're a good sport. You're a really great person, and if I was in school, I'd love to have a school resource officer like you, looking out for watching my back. In New York City, SRO means single room occupancies, so it's good to have SRO in Pennsylvania mean school resource officer.
Yeah.
You have any final words, Beth?
No, I just want to thank you guys for having me. This was a blast. Anytime I get the opportunity to talk about what I get to do and what I love, it means the world to me. I want people to know that there's good folks out there, and you guys included. So that means a lot to me. Thanks so much.
You know, Beth, we're trying to keep the word out there. We're trying to keep the word out there that the police are good people, and when people talk against the police, we want to call them out too. You know, because that's part of who we are. We didn't forget that we were cops. We didn't forget that we knocked down doors. We didn't forget that we arrest bad guys, you know? So we're still the po-po.
Thanks for coming on, Beth. And for everybody that tuned in tonight, thank you so much. If you donate to our Super Chat, we really, really appreciate it. Did we give a shout out to the people that give out the Super Chat?
Yeah.
There was 2.
Ron, woman, thank you so much. This does help us stay in coffee, because they don't give us free coffee anymore because we're not on the job anymore, you know.
No, it helps us because this background I have is actually a green screen. And they said I got to pay rent for it. They said I got to downsize it next month if we don't make the nut. All right. Thank you so much, everybody.
Good night for everyone that listened tonight, from Bill Cannon and Mark DeMeo, Police Off the Cuff, and Dr. Beth Sanborn. Thank you so much for watching.